Welcome to Hildestone College's quick lesson series where our teachers give you some English language tips.
Hello and welcome back to Quick Lessons. Today I'm going to continue looking at participle clauses, which I started in the last video where we looked at present participle clauses. Today we'll look at past participle clauses. I'll explain first what a past participle is, then we will look at 3 example sentences which I've rewritten to use a past participle clause. Okay? So, the past participle is also known as the third form. So when you look at those tables of irregular verbs, it's the form that's in the third column. So if you take the verb take as an example, the infinitive is take, the simple past form is took with double O, and the third form or past participle is taken. With the verb buy, it's buy is the infinitive, bought is the simple past, bought is also the past participle. That one doesn't change because it's buy, bought, bought. So you'll see different verbs have different patterns. You need to know what the third form is. If it's a regular verb, it's easy because it just ends in ed, as in invited or offered. Okay, let's move on to some example sentences with past participle clauses then. The thing to remember with past participle clauses is that they generally have a passive meaning. You'll see what I mean with that in just a moment. Look at this first example. The government introduced new measures to reduce carbon dioxide emissions. The measures have failed. 2 perfectly good sentences, 2 independent sentences. Now, of course, we can combine those, as you can see in the first rewrite here. The measures which were introduced by the government to reduce carbon dioxide emissions have failed. Now, you recognise, I'm sure, that which were introduced is a relative clause. And you can also see that we've changed the verb from introduced in the first sentence to were introduced. And of course, the reason for that is that instead of using the government as the subject, like in the first sentence, we want to make the measures the subject because we want to say, ultimately, the measures have failed. And we're putting all of the rest of the information into the middle of that sentence. If you look at the beginning and the end, it's the measures have failed. But that's sandwiching the other information in the middle. So we have to make it passive so that we can put the government in the middle, which were introduced by the government to reduce carbon dioxide emissions. Now, in the next step, we're going to make that a past participle clause. Okay, here it is. The measures introduced by the government to reduce carbon dioxide emissions have failed. So you can see from the relative clause to the past participle clause, it's quite an easy change. And in fact, some grammar books refer to these as reduced relative clauses, because that's essentially what they are. It's important to make that step first of working out which part of the sentence should be passive, though. That's where I see students making mistakes. The process itself seems relatively simple, but if you're not careful, you mix up the parts of the sentence. Okay, so let's look at another example together, and I hope it will make it a bit clearer to you. There was a severe drought. Crops did not grow because of the drought. There was a famine. I actually had to work quite hard to simplify this sentence because I worked backwards from the very natural sounding participle clause sentence. Okay, so that might be why it might sound a bit strange to you. We've got 3 sentences there, haven't we? And it's not the best way of writing to have isolated sentences like that. And you already know that, I know. So I'm sure you would be more likely to write a sentence like our first rewrite here. The shortage of crops, which was caused by a severe drought, has resulted in famine. So you can see we have got a sandwiching technique going on here. The shortage of crops has resulted in famine. That's a complete sentence by itself. But of course we want to explain why there was a shortage of crops. And as you can see, that's a passive construction. It's a relative clause, but there's a passive verb in there, was caused. And then it makes it even clearer when you've got a by part of the sentence telling you what caused it. And from there, it's very easy to transform this into a reduced relative clause or past participle clause. The shortage of crops caused by a severe drought has resulted in famine. Okay, you can also see with this how using a past participle clause or reduced relative clause makes your writing denser. That means there's more information in fewer words. That's typical for academic writing. So even if you don't want to write these kinds of sentences yourselves, you do need to be able to understand them because you will be reading them. Okay, I have one more example for you. Try pausing the video before I show you my rewrites to see if you're doing it the same way. That's quite a good test to see if you've understood. Obesity causes health problems. We must solve these problems. Again, two very simple sentences there that are independent from each other. Now, in my first rewrite, I've put in a relative clause. The health problems which are caused by obesity must be solved. Can you see the sandwich there? I've taken the health problems that we want to solve and then put the cause of those problems, the obesity, in the middle of the sandwich. We've got a passive verb there, are caused, and we've got the agent part of the sentence, the by part, by obesity. Obesity is the thing which is causing the problems. Then, from there, I'm sure you're ahead of me on this and have already done it. It's really easy to make it a past participle clause or reduced relative clause. The health problems caused by obesity must be solved. And there you go. You've got your perfect, information-rich past participle clause sentence or sentence with a reduced relative clause. So I look forward to seeing some more of these kinds of sentences in your writing because, as you all know, successful exam writing is grammatically correct, but it's also varied. So you need to show that you can use these different sentence structures. I always say that features of academic writing like this are like salt in the kitchen when you're cooking. A little bit of salt is a good thing. It makes your food taste better. But if you overuse it, if you overuse salt in cooking, it makes everything taste the same and rather unpleasant. It's the same in your writing. If you only use past participle clauses and use them every time it's possible, it will get boring. So make sure you use a mixture, use a variety, use some relative clauses, some reduced relative clauses, and in addition, some of the other ways that you've been shown to write sentences. Okay, good luck, happy writing, keep practicing your English, and I'll see you again soon for another quick lesson. Bye.
Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please click on the like button, and if you haven't already, please subscribe and click the bell icon so that you don't miss the next video. That's it for this lesson. Until next time, goodbye.